Welcome back here to RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live as qualifying is currently underway for round number 6 of 12 of season number 3 of the Skip Barber Racing School Championship. Randy Chinnet, Alvin Yeves, Hugo Louis bringing you all the action as always. And Alvin, really kind of a yin and a yang between our last two races. Last week at Summit Point, one of the tightest racetracks in North America, very difficult to make passes happen, you know, even in these little Formula 2000 Skip Barber cars. And now we move to one of the biggest racetracks in South America. That is Interlagos, and there's going to be all sorts of room for these guys today.
And not only all sorts of room, if you look at the turns here, they are relatively fast turns here for these cars. So very important for all the drivers here to keep all the momentum as much as possible as they can. Even though the track is really wide, that shouldn't really be a problem. But with that said, being wide, that also will be really prone that if you lose just that little bit of momentum going into any of these turns, well, you're gonna have a pack of cars trying to overtake you.
Oh, this being the halfway point in the championship, let's look at some of the points. You see right now, currently leading is Johnny Gundy with a combined total of 1,154, quickly followed by Kane Halliburton, who has 1,046. Greg Seitz, Felipe Baer, Gavin Martin, they round out your top 5, where Carlos Herrera-Sainz, Arjan de Vries, Enzo Canta, Alex Artisana, and Brian Kelly, they round out your top 10. And just to remind you guys, the winner of these championships in season 2, 3, and 4 on iRacing, winner gets themselves a one-day racing school. Top 5 in each at the end of each championship, so season 2, 3, and 4, they get entered into a runoff race, and the winner of that gets a 3-day racing school, Alvin.
You know, that is one of the good things that we have here in this championship. Not only we are racing here for what essentially, you know, if you go to any other iRacing championship, you're pretty much a race for dragging rights. This one, there's a little bit of more incentive to race for. You know, you win the championship like you just mentioned. You get a one-day race day at the Skip Barber School, but you know, also finishing in that top 5 also gets you into that shootout. And Randy, I know that is a race that we are really looking for, because we're gonna get perhaps the 15 best Skip Barber drivers that we have here in iRacing, and having that one race shootout to see who is the best and get that 3-day race school. I know that pretty much everybody will be gunning to see who is the best.
And of course, if you're let's say talent deficient, we'll say, if you complete enough weeks, it's 8 weeks in order to get scored official in a season. Run 8 weeks in the season, and your name gets essentially put into a raffle, and you could have your name drawn through each of the 3 seasons, 2, 3, and 4. Get your name drawn, you can end up with a one-day racing school. So if you're a little on the short side for talent, like some of us, like Alvin, myself, and Hugo, you can still get yourself that racing school. And that's great for us guys at the back of the field, isn't it, Alvin?
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely great. You know that you also get kind of like participation medals of some sorts. Although I really have to question if Hugo really lacks that much talent, considering that he won a championship. Yes, he doesn't race anymore, but come on.
He won a championship, but there's now a pit wall named after him at this circuit, as we will allude to in a little bit. But with that, qualifying, let's take a look at the times in just a little bit. Currently, provisional pole sitter is Felipe Baer, and I think everyone actually might have already scored their qualifying time. So with that, let's go down as they're about to take the grid. The qualifying results live for the mid-race of the season, here at Interlagos. Felipe Baer in the 1 comes away with pole by about 0.2 of a second over Carl Dronke. One of the best qualifying performances we've seen from Dronke in the past 2 seasons. Greg Seitz sits 3rd with David Pina Jimenez on the outside of that row number 2. Benny Simonson and Tuan Tron, they make up the 3rd row, with Andrew Precario and Carlos Herrera-Sainz making up row 4. Kane Halliburton and Christian Steele, the IndyCar phenomena, he makes up round 5. Christian Capenga and Carlos Rodriguez Martin make up row number 6, with Jeff Giassi and Justin Smith row number 7. Hakan Grebstead and Ignacio Sanchez row 8, with Brian J. Kelly rounding out the 9th row all by himself. Big track for these cars, Alvin. A lot of drafts like we expect to see these big tracks. What do you think we're going to see today?
not only we're gonna see a big draft and pack racing, but if you look at how the cars are green right now, you know, they're really small compared to the track here. So Randy, do you think that we may see even 4, even 5 wide at one point going into turn number 1?
It's certainly possible at a racetrack like this. A lot of room for these little cars. They are quite narrow, but I think a lot of these guys are just going to want a good point stay.
Well, yeah,
especially since Johnny
true.
Gindy isn't here.
Well, yeah, that is true. You know, the points are the most important things here, and given that the points leader is not here, although we also have to mention this is not the only race that we get to race during the week. There's other races, but I think this is the highest strength of field race that we usually get during the week. So, yeah, every driver here should be looking into getting the maximum amount of points possible.
Yes, indeedy. We're currently waiting on one more car to take the grid. And when that happens, these guys will start getting themselves prepped to go racing here for 13 laps. Lights are on, res begin to build. And the field is away here live from Brazil. It's a good jump from Felipe Bear, Carl Dronke, and Greg Seitz. The top 3 break away and get themselves single file. Benny Simonson swerves back and forth a little bit, and the aid of David Pina Jimenez tries to make a move. And Benny Simonson dives down to the inside of corner number 1, fighting already for the 3rd place here through the Senna S for the first time through corners number 2 and 3. Very tight section of the racetrack. Drivers funnel down, and they come now onto the second long straightaway here, the lap Alvin for the first time.
Little bit tight there, but now coming here into the back straight. Now looking here on the backfield, Carlos Urrea Sainz, Andrea Procario, and Kane Halliburton fighting here really hard for what is pin number 7, going side by side through Docira do Lago. Now coming into turn number 5, they're still fighting side by side.
Benny Simonson in the 5 machine going into corner number 4, put the move on David Pina Jimenez. He moves himself up into the 4th spot, now trying to set his sights on Greg Seitz and needs to really close the gap through this tighter section of the racetrack. He doesn't want to give Jimenez a bunch of draft and have no slipstream of his own down these long front straightaways. So
yeah,
through
absolutely.
the first tight hairpin, the field comes, and Felipe Bear, Alvin, has himself a nice little breakaway.
A little bit of a nice breakaway, but Randy, as we have seen, not only I think in this race, but that this is something that we have seen throughout the whole series. Yes, the leader can get a little bit of a breakaway, but I think that is more due to the nature of the start of the race. But especially on this track, being these long straights, although as we go through Subida de Boxes, or as Randy was mentioning, one of the turns has a Hugo Luis name after it. It's not really a straightaway, but you are really going full throttle, and I think this is where the slipstream is going to play a big factor.
Yeah, absolutely right, down this long front straightaway. And Carl Dronke, I don't think is quite close enough to the back of Felipe Bear to really be pushing that slipstream. But that said, they're fighting for 3rd, Greg Seitz and Benny Simonson. And Simon's going to get that spot before they even get to the braking zone, Alvin.
Even before getting into the braking zone, so that really has to show you how powerful the draft is here on this track, especially on this field. And it's going to be really important trying to keep pace with the leaders, because if there is something that we see race after race after race, pretty much after lap 1, we see this maybe 4 or 5 car breakaway in between the leaders. And sometimes, yes, they may be really patient, but on a track like this in here today, really wide corners that are really fast, I think we're gonna see lots of overtakes, especially at the front of the field.
Really wide, but not wide enough for the one of Felipe Bear through corner number 4. He used all sorts of AstroTurf, and now 17 of Carl Dronke all over the back as they go into the tight section of the racetrack here, Alvin. I think going into 1, that 17 is going to have a slipstream.
Yeah, definitely he's going to have the slipstream, but he also has to remember that, you know, it's a lot of patience that you really have to have, especially with a person the caliber of Felipe Bear. He has shown that he is a race winner. He also won the previous season. So for Felipe Bear, yeah, he already has one race day school for Skip Barber, so he already has that in his pocket. So this is more of putting a statement of who is the best driver.
Will he retain that lead? Benny Simonson in 3rd has been aggressive. Carl Dronke, though, how aggressive is he going to be? This is going to be one, I think, his best races of the season, and I think he should be somewhat patient with it. He should be able to accept a P2 or a P3. Now, down this front straightaway here for the 3rd time. Going into 1 for the 3rd time, 17 looks to the outside. And is he going to get it into the braking zone? No overlap just yet. They're all going to remain single file for now, Alvin. Patience being a virtue amongst your top three.
Not only being a virtue, but I think this is going to be the MO that pretty much all the drivers here in the front of the pack will have to exercise, because, like I said, Philippe Lebert, he is not an easy driver to overtake. He will race you, as we see a battle here for P2. Carl Drunke, Benny Simonson going into the end. So let's see if Benny Simonson can get him coming under braking, and see almost gets Philippe Lebert in the process. And Philippe Lebert runs all sorts of wide. Benny Simonson a little bit wide, but now Carl Drunke fighting on the inside. He is not gonna let this one go. Let's see, side by side, Carl Drunke, Benny Simonson into Ferradura. Let's see what happens. And they're still going side by side. Benny Simonson and Carl Drunke swapping position just a little bit. Benny Simonson just a little bit in front, but now Carl Drunke a little bit, and Benny Simonson takes P2.
So Benny Simonson qualifies P5, and by midway through lap number 3 has himself up 3 spots already, now setting his sights on leader of Philippe Lebert. Well done by him, Alvin.
Absolutely great move, and I do have to say, he knew where to make the move. He really wanted to stick to his guns. He went for it. He didn't hesitate. Yeah, they were side by side, and you could have argued, at some point you really have to let off, especially going into turn number 6 Ferradura, but on these cars they really don't have that much power, so you can take a little bit more of a risk compared if you were on a more powerful car, for example.
These cars, not a lot of power, not a lot of downforce either. Is where's the fight going to come from here? Is Drunke going to fight for the second spot back? Is Simonson going to get to the leader? Here comes Simonson up to the back end of Lebert. Drunke pulls out of the slipstream early, and Simonson looks right for your race lead down into corner number 1. Hard on the brakes in the Senna S, but he doesn't have quite enough overlap, and I think he might have just barely touched the back end of Philippe Lebert there. A little bit of an accordion effect through turn number 1 here, fighting for the race lead between the top 3, Alvin.
Little bit of an accordion effect, but this is part of the hard racing that we are seeing here now. Let's see, Carl Drunke getting a run on Benny Simonson now here, coming into turn number 4. This is kind of like a replay of the last lap, but now the roles are reversed. Carl Drunke gets the position going into P2, and it looks like he got the position over Benny Simonson, and I doubt Simonson is able to get a run. Well, no, I stand corrected. Benny Simonson able to get the run going into the inside of Ferradura. Let's see if he can stick to the move again, and yep, Benny Simonson back on P2.
So aggressive racing for second here between Simonson and Drunke, as again they work through the tight hairpin section of the racetrack. And also note, Tuan Dron had to come down pit road. Didn't notice any damage on that car. I think he may have loaded in on the wrong setup. Alvin had to take a little bit of fuel. That's going to put him basically way down the order here as the top 2, top 3 continue to scrap it out. They're single file for now, and I think, Alvin, these guys, they need to be somewhat patient with one another. Simonson and Drunke, they seem like they're more than keen to fight with each other all the way to the end of this race, but they need to be careful lest they let allow the likes of Sites, Jimenez, Sainz, Halliburton, and Picario back into this fight just behind them.
There's also that possibility, of course, but the more they keep fighting, that's also kind of the way that Philippe Lebert wants this race to go. And one of the things that we talk about this race is this track being really wide and having relatively long straights, so draft is going to play a big factor. But that's only if everybody plays together, because the way that they were fighting, well, Philippe Lebert was getting a run, but now Benny Simonson is able to get up to the back of Philippe Lebert, and that battle for P4 is really starting to heat up.
That it is. Fight for P4 is heating up. David Pita Jimenez just took that spot away from Greg Seitz, but Seitz gets a good run out of the Senna S in corner number 3, going down into corner number 4. The 2 machine has the inside, but we've seen the outside before reign supreme at times. So Seitz to the inside line, hard on the brakes, and he's going to get the spot right back. Good move by him.
Absolutely good move, but now here comes even more of a move with Carlos Urrea Sainz trying to get that P4, battling with Greg Seitz coming into Ferradura, and also right behind him, David Peña, Jimenez, Kane Halliburton, and Andrew Procario really fighting hard for P4. I think, Randy, this is going to be one of the battles that we really have to look for.
And it is. This fourth-place fight is really heating up. 3-way, 4-way, 5-way. They're coming up to Young Sao, Alvin, and with all these cars, they're going to get stacked up in the slipstream here in just a few moments' time.
Absolutely, these cars, they are fighting really hard for this, for what is P4, but we also have to remember that they have to exercise just a little bit of patience, because yes, they want to be ahead, but they also have to keep in mind that the top three, Felipe Lebert, Benny Simonsen, Carl Drunken, they are starting to break away. So I could kind of see that, as I said, that Greg Sainz just runs a little bit wide coming out of Junkow, and now Carlos Urrea Sainz coming here on the outside, but not a good enough run. Well, sorry, to the inside, and also David Peña Jimenez coming here into the inside, getting the slipstream, now going side by side with Greg Sainz. Let's see what happens. Coming here into turn number 1, side by side, Greg Sainz, Carlos Urrea Sainz, David Peña Jimenez also looking into it, and it looks like Greg Sainz is able to get that position. But Randy, this is really starting to heat up, and like I said, they have to.
Oh, mistake from Felipe Lebert. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you here with Benny Simonsen now fighting with the race leader Felipe Lebert, and he moves to the front. Number 1 of Felipe Lebert here, Alvin, through corner number 3. Got a little bit of oversteer, and that moves the 5 machine of Benny Simonsen in only about 6 laps, 5 laps even, from 5th up to your race lead through corner number 4 now. Great move by Simonsen to get to the point.
Yeah, absolutely great move there by Benny Simonsen. You know, this is the example that I was talking about, patience. You know, try to ride along. There's really no rush to try to go for the overtake. He pushed Felipe Lebert into a mistake, and now Benny Simonsen into the lead. Let's see if he can steer this ship, or if Felipe Lebert is able to get Benny Simonsen into a mistake.
Carl Drunke has also been brought into the mix after that mistake. Both drivers had to check up a little bit. That would have cost them both a little bit of time. So now Felipe Lebert sits in second. Carl Drunke not far back. I think we'll certainly have the slipstream off of Young Sao and down the front straightaway this next time by. Through this left-hander, and here, Alvin, we still have to keep an eye on that fight for 4th in that second pack.
Absolutely, that fight for 4th, you know, this is the fight that we really have to look for. Now, the question is if these drivers can really try to race as a group instead of really fighting hard for that P4, because everybody wants to go for the win. You know, there is really no going around it. But the way that they are fighting, these top 3, they are really starting to break away. And yeah, Felipe Lebert just made just a little bit of a mistake the last lap. But you know, as I mentioned, that Felipe Lebert coming here into turn number 1 and takes the lead just even before the braking point.
That's that slipstream just working out of Carl Drunke. Unfortunately, nowhere to go. Keeping an eye on the fight for 4th. Carlos Urrea Sainz has the spot over Greg Sainz. He's currently defending from Kane Halliburton through corner number 2, and now on the third corner, this long left-hander, which can cause issues in some of the quicker cars. I think these guys should have enough downforce to stay just about flat out all the way through that corner, and Greg Sainz worth the slipstream on the 11. He closes, not going to be close enough to make a move. Fight for the race lead, though. I think Simonsen may be close enough to potentially get that move done, Alvin, but just didn't quite go for it into turn 4 that time. Let's see, though, will he throw it up on the right-hand side into Ferraduro? We've seen him do that a couple times to make a move stick. No, not yet. He's going to stay single file with Lebert.
And I think the way that we are looking into this, I think Benny Simonsen knows that yes, if he needs to make the move going into Ferradura, he knows that he's got that move. He did it on Carl Drunke twice, and he knows that he can work it. So perhaps he's saving that move for the final lap if he needs to do it, because he knows that right now there's really no point in trying to overtake. Perhaps going through the start-finish line, he can go for that overtake via the slipstream, but this is gonna be a back-and-forth fight pretty much all race long.
Through Mugello and on the run into Young Sao, your top 3 come, and let's see what happens with Simonsen, who's been so aggressive since the green flag dropped here today, coming off that final corner. Now they're going to go through corner number 13, which is up unnamed, and then into Subida de Boxes, which I'm sure Hugo is painfully face-palming at how I pronounce, for those who are unaware. Basically means uphill to the pit boxes for those who don't speak Portuguese. But down the front straightaway they come, and the 5 of Simonsen. I think the left side is going to be open. Felipe Lebert left that inside groove open to that 5 of Simonsen, and he's just going to walk through that open door. 5 machine has the race lead. They're going to be single file through 1, 2, and 3 here this time. But actually, no, Simonsen hiccups into 1, way wide at the apex. Lebert might be able to fight back into the 4 with all the momentum, because he's able to run that preferred line through 2 and off of 3. Here comes the 1 of Lebert with a huge head of steam after the 5 of Simonsen make that slight hiccup now down into corner number 4, side by side for your race lead again. Felipe Lebert looks up the inside, but can Simonsen defend on the outside? No, he's going to give in. So right after getting the race lead back, Alvin, Simonsen gives it right back to Lebert.
Not only he gives it right back, but you know, he is really smart. He knows that perhaps going side by side perhaps may not be the the right thing to do. But I said Carl Drunke also takes an advantage going through the outside of Ferradura, but he really doesn't quite make it. So Benny Simonson, you know, he knows that he can make the move, but hey, we got a crash. Greg Seitz just crashed going into Ferradura. Greg Seitz just crashed.
Big incident with the two of Greg Seitz. Oh my God, they were pushing 4 wide into Ferradura. Everyone fighting for that 4th spot. Replay coming up. There were about 4 or 5 cars involved here, Alvin. I think that's just everybody pushing themselves way too hard. The track is wide, but pushing 4 wide into Ferradura, that's always going to end in tears.
You know, 4 wide, and Greg Seitz was at the front throughout this whole battle, and so he was kind of like an innocent bystander. And I told you, when are we going to see 4 wide? I said that we were going to see 4 wide going into turn 1, but I wasn't expecting it going into Ferradura. I have to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit just a long incident as the fight for the race lead is heating back up. Benny Simonson wants the point once again, and Felipe Bear gives it to him really early down this front straightaway. So the 5 machine re-inherits the race lead. But still, for Greg Seitz, that's just such an unfortunate issue. There's a bit of a stack up. It started at corner number 4, actually. Bit of a stack up, everyone jockeying for position. And then from there, no one wanted to give an inch, and it was just a run into Ferradura that no one wanted to lift for, and that ended up with Greg Seitz, unfortunately, being put in the wall, which is actually really unfortunate, Alvin, because think about it. Greg Seitz being up front, he's the only one, I would say, that wouldn't be at fault for causing that 4-wide situation.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I mentioned. You know, he was pretty much minding his own business, so he was pretty much an innocent bystander of that 4-wide situation. So, you know, really unfortunate for him. You know, he is in front, he is doing his own race, and all of a sudden they go 4 wide, and well, you know, somebody pushed a little bit too far, and well, we just saw the consequences. And speaking of pushing just a little bit too far, Felipe Leber trying to get a little bit of a run on Benny Simonson, and also Carl Drunke really going through the rear of Felipe Leber. Randy, I think Carl Drunke also wants that P2 because he wants to fight for that lead.
Carl Drunke definitely needs a good points finish today, because if we look back at the points just a little bit as a reference, Drunke doesn't even sit in the top 10. He currently sits 14th in the points, and a big finish today would be a great way for him to really get up that score sheet on this championship. So for him, I think, Alvin, he needs to fight for second or even the race win if he can, but he needs to not push too hard. He needs to accept this 3rd place he's been given if it comes to him.
Absolutely, and if you think about it, you know, this is all about taking points. Yes, you want to win the overall championship because that guarantees you a one-day racing school, but also finishing in that top 5, Randy, that is really not a bad thing as well, because that also gets you in the 50-car shootout towards the end of the season. And that is, as I mentioned, that Benny Simonson, Felipe Leber gets the run coming into turn number 1 under braking and now into the lead. So I think this game of Leapfrog, this pretty much is going to go for, I think we got 4 more laps to go, including this one. So this game of Leapfrog, I think it's going to go back and forth, but I'm pretty sure that Benny Simonson, it's starting to strategize just a little bit when is the best place to go for the overtake and seal the deal.
He's definitely picking and choosing his spots as the 5 of Simonson, as he actually checks way up behind the 1 of LeBear, swerves back and forth a little bit. Carl Drunke does the same thing, but the 5 of Simonson had the run off of corner number 3 into 4, and he lifted way out of it early. Simonson, I think he wants that draft late coming to the white, Alvin.
Yeah, and I think that is the point that he is trying to look for when it comes to getting that overtake, because we know that you can make as many overtakes as you want, but given how powerful the draft is with these cars, and also how underpowered these cars are, there's really no point in trying to go for the trying to take the lead right now, because you know that by the start finish line you're going to be pretty much a sitting duck, and going into turn number 1 you are going to be overtaken. So I think this is more of trying to give a little bit right now, trying to see where your car is the strongest right now. I think Benny Simonson pretty much, I think he has the advantage because we have seen him go for so many overtakes so far in this race that he knows where he is at his strongest and where he can go for that overtake, especially on the final lap, trying to go for the lead and try to seal the win here.
Let's see what he does. This is coming to 3 to go. Simonson has the run and he looks to the outside, so he's going to fight LeBear for it this time. Doesn't seem keen to just sit behind, but you know, we're assuming this isn't going to be the last move, but Simonson to the outside looking for the race lead, and Drunke still just sitting back there chilling in third. I think Dronke is really going to be the one to watch here, Alvin, as the 5 of Simonson tries to get a run through 1 and into 2, but Felipe Bear expertly places his car. 5 of Simonson had to get out of the throttle, but still the 5, a good run through corner number 2 and 3. I think the 5, if he wants to, could make a move going into corner number 4 with 3 laps to go, and yes, he's going to try to go for it this time through.
He is definitely going to try to go for it, but also Carl Drunk is sitting there in P number 3, trying to go patiently, seeing how things are going. Benny Simonson, Felipe Bear going side by side, coming into the Interlagos, now coming into turn number 5. They're still side by side, but now Carl Drunk is trying to get a bit of a run there. We may see a 3-way situation. No, we're not. It's from 3-way, we're going to 2-way, and Felipe Bear going for taking the lead again. But Benny Simonson just looks like a little bit of contact there coming out of Ferradura. Now coming here into turn number 8. Felipe Bear still going on the lead, now coming here, turn number 9, Peter Nino. Benny Simonson still trying to get a bit of a run, but I think that the heat is starting to turn up just a little bit between these 3, especially Benny Simonson and Felipe Bear.
Yeah, the top 2, the fight's really heating up, and it's going to be 2 laps to go at the line. Carl Dronke in third, still being patient. And this fight, I think, is going to really heat up when Dronke decides to start making his moves into Young Sal for the third and final time here. They come onto the front straightaway. Going to be the penultimate time into 1, and what does Benny Simonson do? We saw him go for the move into 1 last time. Is he going to go for that move again, or is he going to sit and wait until next lap? No, Simonson looks like he's going to use this slipstream to try to make a move. He looks to the outside, but he cuts off his own momentum a little bit. I think he waited to pull out of the slipstream just a little bit too long. He's not closing as much as he was before, but he's going to be side by side with Felipe Bear into corner number 1 now for the penultimate time. Into 1 they come, and again, Felipe Bear going to expertly defend, expertly place his car through corner number 2, and it's not a run through Simonson through 2 and 3 this time.
And I think for Benny Simonson, that is the smart thing to do. You know, yes, you have the draft and you can sit behind because, you know, there's really no point in trying to go for the overtake. And well, speaking of not going for the overtake, Benny Simonson here on the inside of the Interlagos. Let's see if he can get that position. Benny Simonson, Felipe Bear side by side, and gets a little bit of a slide there, but Benny Simonson really catches the car and still fighting for that P2. But back to my point, he really doesn't want to lay behind, because if he lifts the throttle just a little bit, Carl Drunken will just bounce on him, and going from P through, he will go to P number 3, and I don't think that is the thing that he is looking for.
Fantastic driving from Simonson, getting that slide is a little bit sideways again, going into these hairpins at the top of the hill again through this left-hander. They're going to try to get themselves stacked up, and Alvin, for these guys, it's all about that run off of Young Sal and that run off of corner number 3. If you make a move into 1, you have to get yourself cleared through 2 and 3, and you need to maintain momentum down that second straightaway into 4.
I think you really want to make the move going into turn number 1, and once you make that move into turn number 1, you pretty much have to defend it, even if you're like your life just dependent on it. I think Benny Simonson is going for that move right now. Now let's see how he does that move. Now coming here into speed up the boxes, but also Carl Drunken looks like he's got a little bit of a run here on Benny Simonson. So this is it, Randy. Felipe Bear, Benny Simonson, Carl Drunken, final lap, and Carl Drunken has a blown engine, and as we start the final lap, Benny Simonson now coming on a move there on Felipe Bear, coming into turn number 1 side by side, but Felipe Bear defends really nicely. But I think that this battle really is gonna heat up, but you know, really unfortunate for Carl Drunken.
Unfortunate for Dronke. We've seen in this series as well, the races are short, but it's a lot of times all about engine management, because sitting in the slipstream can raise the temps and allow that engine to overheat, and sometimes it lets go, and coming to the white, it let go for Carl Dronke. But that said, the fight for the race lead not over yet, as Benny Simonson currently still sits in that second position, just a couple tenths off the back of Felipe Bear, through corners number 4 and 5, and up to Ferradura for the final time. The one machine still clear of Benny Simonson. We think for now this part of the track is going to be the where the battle is going to be somewhat calm. Not really a lot of places for Simonson to make a move. Now into the first hairpin after La Haranja, through corner number 8, and then into this tight left-hander at corner number 9. Still trying to keep the gap close is the 5 of Simonson. He's not going to be able to make the move at this part of the track, but he wants to just be there for the slipstream run down to the checkered flag for the final time. Through the right-hander at 10, into Berguhol at 11. This corner somewhat somewhat unimportant, but you want to stay close, as I've said. And for the most important corner for this all race long, Young Sal through the final left-hander. Benny Simonson is close, but the one of Felipe Bear gets a better run off the corner. The 5 was way better on the entry, though. Down the front straightaway for the final time, coming to the checkers. Simonson working the slipstream on LeBear. LeBear should make him do it the long way around on driver's right. Here comes Simonson, looking to the right-hand side of the racetrack. Down the front straightaway past the pit entrance, and the 5 of Simonson just noses ahead. And at the line, it's going to be the 5 of Benny Simonson on the final lap to steal race victory away from Felipe Bear. There's more smoke in the background. That was Andrew Picario. I think we just had a big incident coming off Young Sal in that second pack. Yes, we did. Picario and Carlos Sainz, huge issue coming down near the front straightaway here. Actually, where Mark Webber had a big crash in the WEC, Alvin.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great finish that we had in here. You know, this is something that we were talking pretty much all race long. When were you going to make the move? And to me, it seems like Benny Simonson really had the perfect timing that we were talking, you know. So absolutely great race to him. Congratulations. And then all the way to the back of the field, Randy, we had a fantastic race in here today.
That it was. We saw a replay of that incident for, I believe that was 3rd out there on the racetrack, may have been 4th. Not sure what happened with that second pack. Kind of lost track, if I'm entirely honest with you. But that 11 and the 15, Alvin, I have to say, Sainz just kind of drove into the back of Picario.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I think he was trying to get just a little bit of the slipstream, you know, trying to get just that little bit. But I think he got just a little bit too much. And perhaps he may have thought that on these cars you can bump draft, but unfortunately these cars, they really don't bump draft that well.
No, they definitely don't. You can bump draft stock cars at super speedways, and well, you can also bump draft Formula 3 or Formula Renault 2.0s at Monza. We've seen that happen in the real world, but these little Skip Barber cars, that nose is pointy and that rear end isn't flat, don't want to be doing any bump drafting these cars. We're getting a replay of the win. And now we're going to go down your post-race results live from week number 6, halfway of the 12-week series here on iRacing for the Skip Barber Racing School Championship. Swig of water before we go down the list. And Benny Simonson, I'm looking at the wrong page, comes away with the race win, 0.04 of a second off of Felipe Bear. Carlos Sainz takes 3rd after that questionable move on Picario. Capanga takes 4th, and Kane Halliburton rounds out the top 5. Andrew Picario ends up 6th after that spin, with Justin Smith 7th, Christian Steele 8th, David Pina Jimenez 9th, and Tuan Tron rounds out your top 10. Jeff Giossi 11th, Brian Kelly 12th, Ignacio Sanchez 13th, Hakon Grebstad 14th, Carlos Rodriguez Martin 15th, Carl Dronke 16th, and Greg Seitz finishes 17th, a minute and a half off the leader. Alvin, that race had a bit of everything. Fantastic fights for the win, fantastic fights all the way through, as well as a little bit of drama with some incidents out there on the track. Interlagos was, I would argue, the best race this season thus far.
And I think I have to agree with you, Randy. You know, so far from all the races that we've had here on this season, I think this race really didn't disappoint. I think this is what I was expecting when it comes to action all over the field. We even had, you know, one of those unfortunate, you know, you are racing very good all race long. We're talking about Carl Dronke, how he needed to get a good finish, and as he was coming down to the final lap, blown engine. You know, Randy, I think to me that is one of the most heartbreaking moments. You know, you've been doing a good race all race long, and then coming to the final lap, you get a blown engine. If we go to the previous round, we think about Greg Seitz. He also had a blown engine on the final lap. You know, these are the type of things that can really make or break a season for you.
That it does. Also important, Greg Seitz had damage from earlier on, so I think that may have what caused his motor to pop later on. But regardless, that is going to do it for us today on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. We hope you enjoyed round number 6 of your Skip Barber Racing School Championship. Next week, join us as we're going to go from one big Grand Prix track to another, actually 3 in a row. We're going to have Silverstone next week, and then the week after that, on the week of the 1st of August, we will be at Road America. And if you're not done watching iRacing Live or RaceSpot TV, we got more shows coming this week. This coming weekend, Friday prime time, we have the Blanc Pond GT Sprint Series, bit of the preview at Spa for this weekend. The Blanc Pond GT World Championship Series 6 hours of Spa coming this Saturday. Be there to tune in, watch all the biggest teams, the Inexes, the Cores, the Coandas, duke it out for 6 hours at Spa in the GT3 machinery in the Blancpain GT World Championship. But for now, from Randy Chinnet, from Alvin Nieves, and from Hugo Louis, this has been round number 6 of the Skip Barber Racing School. See you next week.